tell us a little bit about those times that we took the students there. A lot of them did not have degrees.
You need to be a bit older when you mediate. It's like, Jackie said, you can't just go to the training buff and then hit some balls and decide to go and play pro golf. The fact is that you need, and then it becomes very difficult to go and play in a tournament. It's like going on a blind date. Mediation is a blind date because you never know what you're going to get, and it all depends on how you need to be able to adapt to what you're going to get when you're busy with your mediation. Unfortunately, it comes with time. The more you expose yourself to all these different situations, the more you are in a position to deal with it. You're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with a lot of other people in different situations. Very, very often, I can think back when I was still at the Family Advocate's office, where the Chief Family Advocate would say, you're dealing with people with a very much diminished capacity because they hate one another. They just don't want to be in the same room, or they have this animosity towards one another. And therefore, you need to get them to talk to each other. And it's very, very often the problem that you face. And that's where Jackie comes in. And again, you can play and you can practice all those steps. And then, but you will not be able to not hit a windy shot from the first buff where you're going to now tee off in a pro tournament. And just to add on to what Sean said, the co-mediation and the observer, very often it makes me think about that sticker that you used to get on the back of a car where it says, my lawyer is stronger than your lawyer. The co-mediation somehow has an added ambiance, I would say, in a room where parties would then feel that they can play off the one mediator against the other. And you need to be able, and that comes with experience. You need to be able to see when that happens. So the unfortunate thing is, you need to be able to grow some gray hair, to be able to say, listen, this is what's going to happen, or this is how you're going to deal with it. So it comes with time. And unfortunately, a degree and being an advocate, being a qualification, I respect all of those. I really respect everyone, and I respect brilliance, and I respect everything else. But you're dealing with personalities, and I think the court wants us to actually take away some business from the court structures. That is what is the aim in this mediation program. So that's it. That's my buzz for tonight. Thank you very much.
I like that buzz. Thank you so much. Everything you've said there, I agree with, Chris. Thank you for that. Jackie, I'd like us just to end off, maybe just summarize, the first and second statements that we did. And then I would like to answer Heidi's question. And if there's more questions, let's tackle them.
You would like me to summarize, Marieke?
yeah, if it's possible, if we can just quickly just summarize again what we said, and then the people can start posting questions for us.
Okay, so to summarize is again that there are two processes. The one is membership, which is joining the professional body and committing to its ethics and processes. And then accreditation is the separate competence-based recognition that you meet MSSA standards, to practice in a defined category and be listed accordingly. And this is all just in the MSSA accreditation standards. It's all described how that works. It can be a bit confusing, but it's actually following. You know, it's outlined there what needs to happen. And I'm aware also that it's not easy for aspirant mediators to get exposed, to get an opportunity to observe, to get opportunities to co-mediate. I'm very well aware that that is not easy. And that's where, as the MSSA, we should hold hands and provide opportunities to do so. So yeah, that is something that we're all working on, to allow you guys opportunities to observe or co-mediate so that you can gain experience and work towards your accreditation.